Welcome back into the show. June 16th is going to be a blast. City of Houston, first time since 2014. Our Eagles are returning here, and they are going to be representing at BBVA Compass. And joining us now is Blaine Scully, serving as the co-captain. Right, Blaine? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. So are you hydrating right now? Are you starting this far out for Houston?
Well, we're up in Denver, Colorado right now, prepping for our match against Russia. So between the heat up here and the altitude, I think we should be pretty well prepared.
So how bad is that altitude? We always hear it in other sports, whether it be NBA teams going up there to play the Nuggets or the Broncos in the NFL. Can you really, right away tell it's that bad as an athlete?
I mean, I think a little bit. Your lungs feel a little bit. But, I mean, after that, you kind of have to get on with it, though. So, and what we really are kind of looking at is we choose to look at it like an opportunity to get stronger. So we see the altitude as an asset for us, and hopefully help us this weekend against Russia, and building into Houston next week. We'll feel pretty good about it.
We got Blaine Scully joining us. Have you ever messed with the training mask at all while you're conditioning for whether international play or your team play? Have you messed with the training mask at all?
I haven't.
Man, that thing is crazy. I have one of those, and that is like the altitude creator. And there's there's studies like it works or it doesn't, but it's pretty fascinating what kind of training technology is out there now.
Yeah, definitely.
Now Blaine Scully's joining us. Blaine's from California, went to Cal Berkeley, and he played rugby there. Now, there was a story. I wouldn't call it a story, but there was a tweet from an NFL writer. I think he worked for ESPN, where he was watching some college rugby, and then he said, if I can get the best athletes that don't play rugby and give them a couple weeks of training, I have a real shot to beat this team. And rugby people got after him, and it was an attack on pretty much he who was ignorant and arrogant. He doesn't know enough about rugby. Now, we all assume that if you're a football player, you can easily transition to rugby. I was looking at some of your bio. You didn't actually play football in high school. What led you to playing rugby at Cal?
Well, funny enough, my dad and brother were college football players, and Mom did a pretty good job keeping me away from football, but somehow I ended up making tackles for a living anyways. Funny enough. But, I think we are blessed with a lot of high-caliber athletes in the United States, and I think that's kind of the point that he was trying to make. And, for us, it is a tough transition. It's a different game. And we've seen now a couple rugby players transition to the NFL, and then there's a learning curve. And it's not as easy as you might have the athletic gifts, but like anything, if you have to understand what you're seeing and understand the game in order to actually use that athletic prowess that you have. So, I think I take what he's saying, and I think there's mutual respect for both sports from both different sets of athletes, and respecting the different demands of each game and the athleticism that's required.
Blaine Scully joining us. He's made 37 appearances with our national team. He's the rugby captain. You're currently playing overseas, right? And, of course, rugby, it's much bigger overseas. But it is cool to see here, at least for us locally, and there are other cities that are participating in Major League Rugby. How is it for you to see now America accepting it a little bit more, and another major league, or another league is starting up with rugby with MLR? How's that as a national team member to see?
It's a great evolution for us, and obviously it's our national team for the most part now is completely professional, which is one of the first times we've been able to say that. So for a domestic game, it's hugely important that we have a meaningful professional competition. Personally, I think it's one of the key ingredients to us growing as a nation. So, kind of creating a pathway experience from youth athletes to high school to college, and then into a professional setup that eventually populates the national team from a talent pool perspective. And, I think it's really a key for us if we want to be competitive on the world stage, which is obviously all of our objectives.
Now, Raheel mentioned your time overseas. You played for the Leicester Tigers in Cardiff. Now, Americans probably didn't know anything about Leicester City until they had their magical run in the Premier League, and that's where we found out it wasn't actually Leicester; it was Leicester. How quickly did you adapt to calling it Leicester? Because watching them from afar, we just assumed it was called something else.
Yeah, no, you learn pretty quick, and it's a great sports town. So I was fortunate to have my first contract there at the Leicester Tigers, which they've been incredibly successful rugby program there. They're sort of synonymous as a Manchester United of rugby in the Premiership, and obviously what Leicester City was able to do a few years back was what you said, magical. So it's a really cool sports town. Obviously, really great people there, and was grateful to have the experience.
Hey, how big is rugby overseas? Obviously, we, over here in the States, for us, especially this show, we just got into it this year with MLR, and now we're excited to be supporting you guys, and we're going to be out there June 16th. But overseas, of course, the All Blacks, that's like everyone knows that as a casual sports fan.
Right.
But internationally, how big is it? Can you compare it to an American sport here so we can kind of understand how big it is?
Yeah, well, I think the Rugby World Cup's the third largest sporting event in the world behind the Soccer World Cup and the Olympics. So, obviously we have the Super Bowl, but from an international perspective, it's a tournament that lasts 2 months and with 20 countries there, and it's an incredible event. And Premiership is in England is one of the best leagues in the world, and obviously you have the Southern Hemisphere and New Zealand and Australia and South Africa, and it's a global game, which is one of the really unique aspects of it, and one of the really exciting parts to be a member of the community, because there's however many countries there are that play the game, but we all kind of share this same language that we speak, which is rugby.
Now, Blaine, you played for the national team, the rugby union team, and also the Sevens. We were watching the Sevens during the Olympics, and we kind of fell in love with it because it would be on when we were doing our show. What would you consider the biggest, if there is a big difference between the two? Because I feel like the Sevens is something a casual American sports fan would adapt to really quickly. What's the difference between Sevens and I guess you would say regular rugby?
Yeah, I mean, it's high-paced, high-energy, 7-minute halves, a lot of space. So we get to see kind of that athletic expression that we spoke a little bit about earlier, where it's speed, it's about everyone's got to be able to have the same basic skill set: pass, catch, tackle, jump, and it's a really high energy game, which obviously lends itself to something that we know and understand. 15 is a traditional game. Is although it was a kind of a forefather of American football, it still takes a little bit of understanding, probably from an introduction standpoint or a novice viewer standpoint, to kind of understand the game. But I mean, the basic premise is it's an invasion game, like any other sport. Is you try to take territory and score on the opposition's goal. You know what I mean? So, I think if you kind of start there, then it gives you a pretty good foundation to understand the game.
It's the Raheel and Dell Show. Blaine Scully joining us. By the way, June 16th, you can get your tickets right now. The Eagles are going to be taking on number 5 world-ranked Scotland. And you guys are just coming off, by the way, the 2018 America's Rugby Championship for the second consecutive year. That is awesome. You went 5-0, so this is going to be this is a high-profile matchup here in the city of Houston.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a big test this week with Russia, and we're really excited about the opportunity to represent our country and put our best foot forward. And next week in Houston, we're playing the 5th ranked team in the world, which is for us how we want to be measuring ourselves. We want to be in the top 10. We want to be in that conversation, and we want to be able to compete at the 2019 World Cup. So, from our perspective, this is a really important match for us to see where we are.
Blaine Scully, we appreciate it. USARugby.org/tickets to get your tickets today. Tickets are only $23, starting at $23. We love that. It's affordable. It's a blast. It's going to be a fan fest beforehand, and rugby fans can tailgate, which I love. So we'll see you out there, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, we appreciate the time. That's Blaine Scully, and you can, again, go to usarugby.org. And here's another thing. The men's national team will also be hosting a Texas barbecue on the Thursday night before the match on June 14th, where fans can purchase a ticket for $125, and you get exclusive access to hang out with the guys before the event. June 16th is also ALS Day at BBVA Compass Stadium, so you can donate to research at sportsauthorityfoundation.org. We appreciate Blaine joining us. It's the Raheel and Dell.